but hopefully it will stop soon. So yes, lie down onto your backs. Make sure you're warm enough. If you do feel you need to, yeah, you do keep your socks on, Sheila. I think that's quite a good idea to start with. Yeah, we didn't think we'd be saying that on Saturday, did we? So lying down, and we're going to do a little breathing exercise to start with on our backs. So but maybe the first thing you could do is just let your head roll a little bit to the right and to the left. And feel that you're letting yourselves arrive and settle on your backs. The bin lorry is right outside my window now, so once that's gone, we'll be able to focus on our breathing a bit more. And what we're going to do is we're going to move one arm at a time with our breath. So just aside, if you've got like Aditi with your shoulder, if you've got any shoulder issues, just it's an easy movement, but do the more difficult shoulder second. So start with your easier side first. And so you're going to bring one arm, the arm that you're going to work with, to rest on the floor beside you. And in your own time, you're just going to start to roll that arm on the floor. So in one orientation, your palm faces the ceiling. And in the other orientation, your palm faces the floor. And once you're clear about that movement, you're then going to start to coordinate your breathing with the movement. So as you breathe in, you turn your palm up. And as you breathe out, you roll your arm so your palm turns down. So breathing in, turning the palm up. Breathing out, turning the palm down. And do this for another few cycles of breath on this first side. And keeping as much contact of the arm and the hand on the floor as possible. Maybe have one more cycle of breath with this arm. And then let the arm rest wherever you like. So it could be that you have that hand that you've just been moving on your belly, or you just let the arm rest comfortably on the floor. Let a breath come in, let a breath leave you. And then you're going to come to work with the other side. So with the other arm now, bring that arm to rest on the floor beside your body. And start to roll the arm on the floor. So as you breathe in, you turn the palm upwards. As you exhale, you turn your palm down. And again, remember to keep as much contact of the arm and the hand on the floor as possible, particularly when you're moving it. And to try to feel that you're not changing your breath in any way. So you're not trying to make your breathing longer or shorter. Good. So carry on for 2 or 3 more cycles of breath. Breathing in, the palm turns up. Breathing out, your palm turns down. And then just let your arm come to rest. And if your legs are long, you're now going to bend your knees and stand your feet on the floor. That's it. And then from there, you're going to start to let your knees tilt to the right and to the left and see how this feels. Very nice. just a few more times to the right and to the left. And then we're going to settle in the center and we're going to move the arms in that sort of triangle position. So it's up to you whether you want to keep your knees bent or lengthen your legs out. So just do whichever is most comfortable for you, particularly for your lower back. And then you're going to bring your arms up into that position where you're making a triangle with your arms, you're touching your palms together. And you're going to start then to rock your arms side to side, to the right and to the left, rolling across the upper back, letting your head move in the same direction as your arms. Good. Trying to find as smooth a movement as possible. And also trying to leave your knees and your pelvis quiet. So I think the internet connection might be a little bit unstable because some of it looks rather jerky, but I know you're doing lovely smooth movements. So a little bit more to the right and to the left. That's nice. Good. And then just let your arms come to rest. We're going to repeat that in a moment, but I think sometimes this one can make us a bit tired in the arms. So let the arms come to rest, let the breath come in, let the breath leave you. When you come back into that one, we'll do the little variation that we did. I think we might have done this a couple of weeks ago. So you're going to come back to taking your arms up towards the ceiling. And this time you're going to, as you start to rock from side to side, you can change the orientation a bit of where your hands are. So your hands are still in that triangle position, but you can try taking your hands up a bit higher so they're more over your face. And then as you rock from side to side, you can move your hands so they come a bit lower down. So just try to feel that as you move your hands a bit nearer towards your head or a bit nearer towards your body, you change where you rock across your upper back. So maybe you go a bit higher up towards more really across the top of the back of the shoulders, or you rock a little bit lower down. So it just means that by changing where your hands are, you can massage where you need to feel, where you need to undo. And it's just quite nice to do that little movement, changing where the hands are. You could be rocking them up and down. So just a few more times. And then let your arms come to rest on the ground. And let a breath come in, let a breath leave you. And if your legs are long, you're now going to bend your knees and stand your feet on the floor. And come back to letting your knees tilt to the right and to the left. And see how that movement feels. So usually when we've done that rocking movement across the upper back, when we come back to tilting our knees, it maybe feels a little bit easier, a little bit smoother. That's nice. And from here, keep your knees bent, pause in the middle, and then just take your feet wider apart. So your feet are as wide as the narrow edge of your mat. And then start to tilt your knees to the right and to the left and see how that feels. And as you do this one, just check that both knees are going along. That's it. So Sheila, when you go the other way, that's it. Just make sure the knee that's going out to the side is going a bit further. If that feels okay, yeah, that exactly. That's lovely. Good. Don't do it if it feels too much. But I think I notice this sometimes in this one. I can leave one of my knees behind. Yeah, that's lovely. Good. Now, you might just want to stay in this one, rocking from side to side. If it's comfortable to take your knees all the way down on one side and have a few breaths, so they may not reach the floor completely, it doesn't really matter. If you feel you need a cushion under either of the knees and you have a cushion to hand, you can slide it under one of the knees. And just check that the shoulders, so if your knees are going to the right, you want to check that your left shoulder feels heavy. And that's nice, Sheila, yeah. And you could even roll your head in the opposite direction to the knees. So that would help your shoulders stay heavy and might feel quite nice in the neck. So you have a few breaths with the knees going onto one side, you have a few breaths with the knees going onto the other side. So this movement, when we've got the feet a bit wider apart, it starts to move us a bit in the hip joints, which will be helpful preparation when we come into our lovely balance on our side. Anantasana. So rolling, that's very nice. Have a few breaths on the second side. And in your own time, when you come back to the center, it may be quite nice to lengthen your legs out on the floor and give them a bit of a roll or bounce your knees. So in a moment, we're going to be rolling onto our side for anantasana, but you might like to, some of you might like to fold your knees into your chest first and do a little bit of rocking from side to side with your knees folded in towards you. So that's a possibility. And the other possibility on your back is also taking your legs up to the ceiling and giving them a shake out. And we're going to do a bit of rocking on our backs. So when you've done all these things with your legs, I'd like you to come back so you've got your feet on the floor and you're going to cross your arms over your chest, give yourself a hug. And then in this one, you can let the knees and the head and the elbows all rock in the same direction from side to side. And we're going to be using this movement to take us all the way over onto our side. But first of all, enjoy a bit of rocking from side to side across the back of your body. So we're going to be rocking over in a moment onto one side and settling on that side long on our side for anantasana, the one I showed you. And when you're ready, roll onto one side. Probably would be good to be on the side that you can see me better from. And I was thinking a little bit when I was doing this yesterday about the different ways we can support our head. So I always like to do this one where I'm propping my head up in my hand because I feel a bit more alert in it. Because once we come into this position on our side, it's about a balance. I suppose it is about feeling a bit alert. But you could have your arm down like this. You could have your bottom arm long. But yes, for me, being here makes me feel a bit more with it, which is always helpful. So you've got your top hand on the floor in front of you. Your legs are long. If you look down your body, you can see your feet. If you look down your body and you see your ankles, your feet might be too far forwards. If you look down your body and you can't see your feet at all, your feet are too far back. And do a little bit of rocking. Can you do a little bit of rocking on your side? Forwards and back. So we're trying to find a place where we can settle down and rest on our side. Give us a bit of a massage, this rocking forwards and back. And from here, let's see if we can settle. Can you bring that hand off the floor onto the top side of your body? And you may or may not feel steady. And then from here, we're going to take that top leg into tree pose. So you might need your hand on the floor, the top hand. You might need your top hand to catch your ankle, depending where you bring your foot onto the inside of the bottom leg. So see how it feels. And you want to really, to keep that foot there. You're pressing your heel into the inner leg. So it could just be above the knee, it could be on the shin, it could be up on the thigh. And have a few breaths there. And see if you can feel steady. And I should have said at this point, yes, if you did need your belt, you might want it to hand. But because from here, as you know, we'll fold this top knee in towards the armpit on the top side of the body. So at this point, if you're feeling very wobbly, you could bend your bottom knee and slide that bottom knee forwards, and that will help you feel a bit more stable. Otherwise, from here, you're going to use your belt. It's fine to catch your trouser leg. It's fine to catch your ankle, and you're going to, or your big toe, and lengthen that leg up towards the ceiling. Still trying to stay steady through the bottom side of the body. If you're wobbling, then really feel the bottom foot, so the foot that's in contact with the floor. It's very helpful to keep you steady here. Can you have a few breaths? Can you really stretch into your heel? Feel the back of the leg opening. And then from here, we'll slowly reverse the movement. So start to bend your knee, fold your knee down towards your armpit. Have a breath or two there. Then come on into tree pose on your side. And then see if you can lengthen that top leg out. You might definitely need to bring your hand onto the floor to stop you wobbling. So come back to having two long legs. And then from here, you're going to roll onto your belly and just see how it feels to lie onto your belly. We're not going to do anything particularly fancy here. So have your arms however is comfortable. I like to rest my head on the back of my hands. And you're going to give your pelvis a bit of a wiggle and just see if you can settle on your belly. Let your legs go. Good. And then the other one I'd like you to do here right now is where you bend your knees and you bring the lower legs off the floor. You orientate the soles of your feet more towards the ceiling and you let your feet then tilt from side to side. Now I was playing around with this one yesterday and I was playing around with as I rock my feet from side to side, taking my feet closer towards the floor and then bringing them up more so the soles are orientated towards the ceiling. So a bit like we were doing with our hands when we were rocking with our arms in a triangle. You can change the feeling of the movement by where you're moving your feet up and down. And just let yourself settle back on your belly for a couple of quiet breaths. And we're going to, you can come back to wiggling your pelvis if you like. We're going to be coming onto the other side of anantasana. So from being on your belly, rolling over onto your other side. If you feel that, I'm sure you all know what you're doing, but if you feel that you want to turn over so you can look at me, then obviously do so. Think again about this bottom arm. How are you going to organise your bottom arm? So that you feel steady, so that you feel comfortable, so you feel alert, so you're not going to sleep here. Have your top hand on the floor in front of you. Do a little bit of rocking forwards and back. So it's a bit like we're massaging through the side of the body. It's also that we're seeing where can we settle? Where can we settle and feel stable? And send your awareness down into your feet and see if you can feel the bottom foot in contact with the floor. It'll be the sort of edge of it near the toes. And then let's take that top foot into tree pose and see how that feels on this side. And have a breath or two here. Again, you want to be really sinking your heel into the inside of your bottom leg to help it stay put. And then from here, what would it be like? You have to bring your hand off the floor, might make it all a bit more wobbly. folding that knee towards your armpit in the top side of the body. So remember, at this point, you can always bend the bottom leg, slide the knee forwards on the floor if you need to feel a bit more stable. And then from here, use your belt, use your hand. We're going to be lengthening that top leg up towards the ceiling. And at this point, it's helpful to feel that you're stretching into both heels. So your awareness is traveling all the way to your feet. The side of yourself on the floor. And you're having a few breaths here. Obviously, you come down in your own time when you've had enough. So from here, we try to, like with every balance, we try to sort of come down mindfully, slowly, reversing the movements we did, knee to the armpit, coming down into tree pose. At this point, you might want to put your hand on the floor in front of you to lengthen out your top leg. And then see if you can, just before we come back onto our belly, see if you can take your hand off the floor in front of you and balance on your side for a breath or two. And then we're going to roll back onto the belly once more. And settle yourself down, again with your hands wherever it is most comfortable. Give your pelvis a little bit of a wiggle to settle down. And we're going to do a couple of things with the feet and the legs. So what I'd like you to do here is choose one leg and just start to tuck those toes under and then release them. So a few times, tucking the toes under, releasing the toes, tucking the toes under, releasing the toes. It's a really good stretch for the toes and the feet. Tuck the toes under, release them in one foot. Very nice. Yeah, so just do 1 foot at a time. So you can move on to foot number 2 now. Tuck the toes under and then release them. Tuck the toes under and release them. So do this 2 or 3 more times in the second foot. And something about sending our attention right down into our feet maybe helps us settle a little bit more on our belly. Come back to your first foot and you're going to lift that foot, bending the knee, lift the foot off the floor a little bit and then drop the foot back down. So it's like you're tapping the floor with your foot. So you don't want to lift it too high because it might make it a bit painful when you drop it, yeah? As long as it isn't painful. If you're on a sort of nice carpet or a rug, that's fine. You want to be able to bend the knee, lift the foot, tap it on the floor, drop it on the floor. And then do the same thing with the other foot. Lift the foot and then drop it back down. Nice thing going on. Good. Okay. And then let that go. And we're just going to a few times from here. You're going to take your arms forwards a bit so they're either side of your head in a big circle. Have your forehead on the ground. And then as you exhale, sinking into your forearms, lifting your head, and then coming back down again. Lifting your head, trying to use the muscles in the upper back. Sinking into the forearms. And just repeat this movement a few times. So as you exhale, you lift your head. You could receive an inhalation while you're supporting your head. And then the next exhalation, you come back down. Or you could lift as you exhale and come back down as you breathe in. And then from here, you're going to fold back into child pose. And just settle in child pose for a couple of breaths. And from child pose, we're going to come onto hands and knees. And we're going to start with a little bit of cat. So whenever you're ready from child, might be quite nice to get moving, coming on to hands and knees. And so settling yourself down with your hands under your shoulders, your knees under your hips. You can do a little bit of circling of your shoulders over your hands if you like. And then when you're ready, settling, starting to round your spine in cat. Rounding and dipping. See how these movements feel. You can also add in a little bit of tail wagging if you like. So you can add in a little bit of wagging your tail from side to side. You could also do it with little fishes where you swing your lower legs from side to side. And just some of these movements on hands and knees that start to mobilize our spine. You can come back to some more cat. Yeah, just start to feel that we're moving in the middle of ourselves. And whenever you're ready, you're going to come into dog pose. And we're going to do a couple of dog poses. You can always come back and do some more cat in between. So tucking your toes under, big handprints on the floor, exhaling, rocking your hips up and back, coming into dog pose, seeing how it feels. Once you're in dog, what do you need to do to help yourself release and undo? And so I'll come and have a look at you. So think about really letting your head go. Bending the knees is always good. One knee, both knees. And also sometimes with that first dog, it is just thinking about, okay, yes, very nice, Sheila, lovely. It is also thinking about, okay, maybe I come back down, maybe I have a breath or two in child, and then I'll be doing another dog pose. So if that first dog feels quite stiff, when you come back down, it's probably quite nice to take the weight off your hands for a moment. You could sit back in kneeling and shake your hands out, or sit up. If you don't like being in kneeling, be in up kneeling. Come back to hands and knees. You can do a bit more tail wagging, a bit more cat, and then we'll come back into another dog pose. So when you're ready, tucking your toes under, exhaling, rocking your hips back over your heels, picking your knees up off the floor. Lengthening out in dog pose. If you're bending one knee at a time, you could just think about how you're really coming up on top of the ball of one foot and then the other. So as well as working and easing off in the back of your legs, you're also really working into the soles of your feet. Now, in a moment, we're going to come into lunge. So you could step forwards into lunge from your dog pose, or you could come back onto hands and knees and step one foot forwards. And come into our favourite lunge and see how it feels today. So we could have a few breaths here. We could also do a bit of easing forwards and back. So if you untuck your back toe, keep your chest close to your thigh. So you can do a little bit of going forwards and back in dog. So when we rock back, we're letting our back round, we're looking back towards our back foot. When we come forwards, we might come up onto our fingertips. In this one, you can let your knee come further forwards over your foot as long as your heel stays down. So the heel staying down is probably the crucial thing, because as we go back in this one, you can let your foot come off the floor, but the heel stays down. So you don't have to do this toing and froing in lunge, but it can be quite helpful for, easing in and out. So quite a big stretch through the back of the legs if we keep our chest close to our thigh when we go back. Maybe finish off forwards in your lunge, having a few more breaths. We're going to swap sides. You could step into dog pose to swap sides in lunge, or you could do it from hands and knees. So I'll leave that up to you. Step into dog. Step other foot forward. So end up in side 2 of lunge when you're busy, when you're ready. Sorry, I was just thinking, every time I go into dog pose, my head must disappear into my top. So exactly the same thing on this side. If you like doing that forwards and back, untuck your back toe, rocking forwards and back. So here, when we come forwards, we can come up into the fingertips. We can let the knee come a little bit further forwards over our foot. When we rock back, looking back towards the back foot, the chest stays close to the thigh. Yeah, so as we go back, the front knee stays bent, the chest stays close to the thigh. And then finally end up in lunge for a couple of breaths if you can bear it. Now we're going to do one more dog pose, and from this dog pose we will be coming up into standing. So again, you can either go straight from lunge into dog, or you can come onto hands and knees and organise yourself on hands and knees. Tucking your toes under, exhaling, rocking your hips back over your heels, picking your knees up off the floor, rolling up into dog. And just see how dog feels now. Have a few breaths in your dog pose. Trying to rest through your arms into your big handprints. Keeping sending the pelvis back. And then whenever you're ready from this dog, it's walking your hands in towards your feet. So you come all the way into a forward bend. Let your head go. If your lower back needs the support, bend your knees, rest your elbows on your thighs. And we're going to roll up into standing from here. If you need to walk your hands up the front of your legs, that's fine to support your back. Otherwise, let your arms hang. Roll up into standing. So we arrive in standing, and maybe then come towards the middle of your mats. So we're going to do a few balances today, but we're going to start with a few other just sort of getting ourselves moving type things. So the first thing we're going to do is to take the arms up towards the ceiling and start to reach into one arm and then the other. So if you look at me as I'm doing this, as I reach up into, say, my right arm, I shift my weight over my right leg. And that helps to really find this sort of length through the side of the body. So I'm not just reaching my arm up, I'm also shifting my weight into that side of the body. So I've got this real sort of lengthening through one side and then the other. And then from here, you're going to then go all the way down into a forward bend and be floppy. Let the head go, let the arms go, just be very floppy. You could actually do your weeping willow one here, where you trail your fingers and your arms from side to side around your footprints. That's nice. So it's just, yeah, so I think that some of these first things we're doing are just about finding some sort of quite free, easy, fluid movement in standing. And then pause in the center, let a breath come in as you exhale, roll back up into standing. And then when you're back in standing, come into this one, where we're swinging our arms, we're slapping our hands onto our body. So when I teach on Thursday evening, I'm not sure if any of you have been there, we're always at 8 o'clock. I start at 7:30. At 8 o'clock, we have this pause where it's the NHS applause and everyone goes outside. So very appropriately, last Thursday, we were doing this and this slapping our arms, our hands onto ourselves, and then suddenly we hear the applause and go out. Now it always reminds me of that. Okay, let's let that one go, and then let's start now to focus in a little bit on some balances. So the first thing we're going to do, is just feel ourselves in standing before we think about any balances. So settle down, close your eyes, feel the contact of your footprints on the floor. See if you can feel the flow of your breath within your body. Maybe take one hand onto your belly, one hand onto your chest. So we're just really trying to feel ourselves in standing. And as we feel ourselves, maybe we soften and settle and release. So let your arms go, have a little shake out of your arms. And what we're going to start to do is coming forwards, bringing our weight onto the balls of our feet. So this one, and we're going to do this a few times. So coming up onto the balls of the feet, coming back down. And again, put your hands onto a wall or a mantelpiece or any sort of support you need. Just see how this feels. So this is about flexibility through the feet and the ankles, and at the same time finding support. So next time if you go up and you feel steady, we'll float our arms up and see how that feels. And then we're going to do a couple of different variations. That's it. So we can float the arms up, let the shoulders drop, drop, drop down, balancing on the balls of the feet. Letting the breath flow in, letting the breath flow out. Good. And then slowly exhaling, bringing the arms and the heels down. Give your legs a little bit of a shake out. We're going to come back to doing this mudra. So we're going to come into the balance, take our arms up, and then try and touch the hands over our head. And then bring them down in front of our chest. And then we're going to do a different variation. So we've done this one before. I'm rather keen on this one. So let's see how it feels today. So let a breath come in. As you exhale, come up onto the balls of your feet. And then let your arms float up. And then you're trying to touch the pads of the thumbs and fingers together over your head in Hakini Mudra. And then keeping the pads of the thumbs and the fingers touching, you bring your hands down in front of your chest. See if you can stay balancing. Letting the breath come in, letting the breath leave you. Very nice. See, I find this one very helpful in this balance here. And come down, have a little shake out. Now, we're going to do the same thing, but with a slight difference. This time, as your hands meet over your head, I want you, first of all, just to touch the middle fingers, yeah? So just touch the middle fingers for a couple of breaths, and then we'll touch all the fingers. So yeah, when you first meet your hands over your head, it's just your middle finger, which is quite interesting. So, just a little shake out. When you're ready, so have a look at your feet, then bring your gaze forwards. When you're ready, bringing your weight onto the balls of your feet. Floating your arms up, and then we're just going to touch the middle fingers to start with. Have a breath or two there. Try and let the shoulders drop. And then touch the pads of all the other fingers and the thumbs now. And then once more, you can bring the hands down in front of your chest. And have another couple of breaths there. Good, and then coming down and just swoop yourself, your arms all the way down into your forward bend once more. Be nice and floppy and heavy. And your own time, letting the breath come in, and as you exhale, rolling back up into standing, having a little bit of a shake out. So we're going to come on to a couple more balances where, what was I going to say? Yes, where we're standing on one foot now. Now, the first one we're going to do, I'll talk you into it. We will be coming into this one where you're either holding your foot or, can't we do it with these trouser legs, or your trouser leg, or using a belt to catch your foot. So just decide how you're going to do that, because if you're going to use a belt, you might want to have it now over your shoulder. But we're going to start this balance by reaching up through the right arm. Let the left arm be heavy and floppy. And so we're reaching into the right arm. We're starting to shift our weight into our right leg and foot. So the left foot becomes very light on the floor. We pick up the left heel. And then we pick up the left foot completely and we catch the top of the foot or the trouser leg. Good. We're still reaching up through the right fingers. We're letting the left knee drop. And then from here, let your hand come down onto your breastbone. And just settling here. See if you can feel the breath flowing through you. Very nice. Come down. Have a little bit of a shake out. And of course, you don't have to come down when I say come down, but if you're feeling very steady, you can always stay there longer. So let's try the other side. Let's start reaching up through the left arm. So we're reaching up through the left arm. We're starting to shift our weight over into the left side of the body. The right arm's heavy and floppy. You can come up. Let the let the right heel come off the floor. And then the whole of the right foot comes off the floor. We catch the top of the foot, we catch our trouser leg, whatever works for us on this side. We have a couple of breaths. We're letting the right knee drop towards the floor. The fingers are still reaching up towards the ceiling. And then you can bring your hand onto your chest, onto your breastbone. And just settle here, this place Karmanadi, where we can feel quiet and maybe steady. Letting the breath come in, letting the breath leave you. Good, come back down and have a shake out. We're going to come into tree pose in a moment. And again, we're sort of sequence for hands. We're going to have our hands in prayer pose. We're going to take our arms up if you're feeling steady, and then over your head we could do Hakini Mudra again, and we can bring the hands down in front of the chest. All these hand things, it's just if you're feeling steady. If you're feeling wobbly, it's probably better just to stay very quietly in prayer pose. Yeah, so really, yeah, see how you're feeling today. So settle back in standing, feet hip width apart and parallel. And let's shift our weight onto our right foot and come into this one where we're just we're rolling on the ball of the left foot. And at this point, you can be thinking about, okay, where am I going to bring my foot on the inside of my right leg? It could be my ankle, it could be a bit higher up with my heel just above my knee, or it could be bringing my foot higher up onto my thigh. And then the hands come into prayer pose, and we're just really trying to gather ourselves into our center, to settle, to quieten. And it would only be from here that we feel really quite steady and settled, that then maybe we let the arms come up. So this is where we feel tree-like. We want to stay quiet through the front of the body, shoulders relaxed and soft. And then here you could see, what's it like to bring the hands to touch in Hakini Mudra once more over the head? How does that feel? And then what's it like to bring the hands down in front of the chest? Feeling the breath come in, feeling the breath leave you. do whenever you want to come down, have a little shake out. So it's very nice, beautiful. It's very nice. For a moment, before we do the other side, come and settle it in standing. You might need to have a good shake out because that standing leg can get quite tired and achy. So settle in standing, close your eyes. Maybe just do a little bit of swaying from side to side in standing and see how that feels. And notice the differences. So I'm noticing that after standing on that right leg, I can definitely feel the muscles in that leg have worked. They feel a little bit achy. And then we're going to be opening our eyes, bringing our weight into our left leg, coming up onto the ball of the right foot. Do these little movements. So we're just trying to remember in tree pose that the pelvis stays facing forwards, the knee turns out, but it doesn't take the pelvis with it. And so wherever you want to take your foot onto the inside of your left leg. So gather the hands into prayer pose. We just see if we can settle. And we feel our breathing. And if we feel steady, we might want to let the arms grow up, shoulders drop. Touching the fingertips together over our head in Hakini Mudra. Keep feeling the flow of your breath in your body. And then the hands can come down in front of the breastbone. And yes, in your own time, come down, have a good shake out. Very nice. So we're going to come to the back of our mats and we're going to make our way down to the ground into child pose, no less. We're going to be doing a child pose variation. So from the back of the mats, forward bend, dog pose. Take your time in each movement, particularly if it feels nice. So from standing, really feel your footprints on the floor. And then when you're ready, starting to roll into your forward bend. If the forward bend feels nice, then stay there for a few breaths, letting the head hang. And then starting to walk your hands forwards into dog pose, big handprints on the floor. See how dog pose feels when you're coming back into this. And again, of course, you can bend the knees, bend one knee, bend both knees. Have a few breaths in dog pose. And then settling down into child pose. And just have a few breaths in just a normal child pose to start with. And then we're going to come into a side bend in child pose. So you're going to keep your right arm reaching forwards and bring your left arm down by the side of your body. Then you're going to start to walk your right arm over towards the left and pick up your head and take your head with you. But keep your forehead on the ground, the centre of your forehead on the ground. And once you've walked over to the left, make sure you're letting your right elbow then settle onto the ground. And have a few breaths. So I'm just going to come and have a look at you. So see, lefts and rights, very nice. Yes, you do all know this one. So have a few breaths there. So you're feeling the length through the right side of your body. And then you can walk back to the centre. You can lengthen both arms out on the floor. And then bring the left arm down by the side, no, sorry, then bring the right arm down by the side of your body and start to walk your left arm over towards the right. Picking up your head, taking your head with you, but keeping the center of the forehead on the floor. Once you've gone as far as you're going to go, let the left elbow come down onto the ground. Have a few breaths. Check that your pelvis is as settled as possible on the ground, because sometimes as we walk over, our pelvis uproots a bit. Good. So in this side bend, we move the shoulders and the pelvis stays fixed, which is quite different to the one we do on hands and knees. Walk back to the center again and lengthen both arms out in front of you. And then from there, you can come up onto your hands and knees and give each leg a little lengthen out behind you. And then we're going to contrast that with coming back into our tail wagging side bend on hands and knees, where our shoulders might move a bit, but what we're mainly moving is our pelvis from side to side. And if we, from here, have a slightly longer hands and knees position, so if we take our hands a bit further forwards, we can start to rock ourselves forwards and back. So we can rock back towards child pose, and we can start to rock ourselves forwards towards face up dog. Go easily with your face up dog. Rocking back, hips coming back over the heels, rocking forwards. And we'll do this a few times, going forwards and back. So really thinking about this movement of swinging the pelvis from side to side. So as the pelvis moves side to side, we use that to propel ourselves forwards and back in a sort of snake-like movement. So maybe one more time coming into face-up dog. We're going to do some more face-up dog in a moment after a couple of other things. So don't feel it's your only chance if you feel that you're only just warming up. And then from face-up dog, let yourselves fold back into child pose for a couple of breaths. Just let your pelvis be heavy on the floor and let your elbows rest down. Good. And then what we're going to do is we're going to move through the little series of puppy poses before we come back into face-up dog. So remember, puppy is where we do those lovely ones where our bottom is sticking up in the air. So number one, the first puppy is with your forearms on the ground, and maybe walk the knees back a little bit. So it's this one. We're dipping the chest down to the floor. Bottom is sticking up in the air. We have a few breaths in these. So it's all about finding this movement in the upper spine. That's where we're expecting to feel these. And it is quite a strong stretch in the underarms as well. In between each of the puppy poses, so when you've had a few breaths in that, you're going to come back onto hands and knees, and you're going to round your back in cat to move your spine in the opposite direction. So round your back up. Okay. So puppy pose number two is where we hold our elbows. So we're bringing our arms onto the floor like this. And see, again, I might just take this top off because I seem to be disappearing into it. So well, I say it's your forehead, but it's a bit more your nose that comes onto the ground in puppy pose. So your nose should be quite squished. Bottom up in the air. Breaths. Again, the focus is on the movement in the upper back. And then once more, come onto hands and knees and round your back to the ceiling. So we move the spine in that opposite direction, really round the back, let the head hang. So if any of the puppy poses don't, if this final one doesn't work for you, revisit one of the others. So the final one is where we have our elbows on the ground and they're quite close together. And still the bottom is sticking up in the air, the forehead comes down. This one is quite intense. Oh, yeah, so don't go back to, if that feels a bit much, you can always go back to this one or the one we just did, holding the elbows. And then from puppy, come onto hands and knees and rounding your back to the ceiling. You just sit back over your heels or come up here and give your hands a little shake out. So we're going to go back into face up dog a couple of times, just using that rounding into face up dog. So it's, if you watch for a moment, we've got a long hands and knees. I'm tucking my toes under, I'm rounding my back. Here I'm sliding my hands forwards a little bit and then I'm traveling into face up dog in this way and seeing how that feels after puppy pose. So for me, I'm feeling I can widen a bit more in the front of my chest. So we can do that a couple of times. So long hands and knees, tucking the toes under. You can do this now with me. Rounding your back up, rocking your hips back over your heels. If it feels here that you need to slide your hands further forwards a little bit, you can do. And then on and out breath, rounding the back, watching your pelvis as you travel forwards into face up dog. See how it feels in the chest, in the upper back. And then reverse the movement. Start to travel back, tucking your toes under, rounding your back, hips all the way back over your heels. And then one more time, traveling forwards, rounding your back to the ceiling. All the way into your face up dog. And shoulders down away from your ears. From this face up dog, you might want to go into a dog pose and then child, or you might just want to go straight into child pose. I was thinking that a dog might be quite nice. Entirely what you feel. If you come into dog from face up dog and it feels a bit long, do walk your feet in. And then come to folding down into child pose for a couple of breaths. And yeah, just have a little quiet in child pose. I just need to, I'm afraid, pop very quickly to the toilet. So from child pose, we're going to come into sitting. And the first thing you're going to do is just lengthen your legs out in front of you and give them a little bit of a roll. Now, it's quite good, the next thing, not to have a reasonably slidey surface under you. So I've just rolled up my mat, and because we're going to be doing this movement where we slide one leg in. And so this, I actually had to wash these mats because it's an animal poo incident. So they're particularly sticky at the moment. But yeah, it's good to have a reasonably slidey surface under you. So it might be, carpet might be fine, a rug might be fine, a wooden floor is always good. So leaning back onto your arms and your hands, you're going to see, how does it feel to start to slide one leg in towards you? So we're going to do this same movement a few times with one leg. Yeah, so just leave the other leg long. So you start to slide the foot in, you let the knee roll out to the side. You don't have to go as far as you possibly can. Good. And then try the other side, so sliding the other foot in and then back again. As we slide the foot in, we let the knee roll out to the side. And then a couple of times, let's see if we can do that with both legs. Slide them in, slide them out. And then eventually we will end up in cobbler pose. So you can slide your legs in and then see how it feels to sit in cobbler pose. You could be leaning back on your hands, you could be holding your feet or ankles. And we're going to do a little bit of rocking from side to side. So again, you can be holding your feet, you can have your hands back behind you. So this, yes, this is where we rock onto one sit bone and then the other. Or possibly all the way over if we wanted to. And then we could let the legs settle and we could do a little bit of leaning from side to side. So this is a bit more of a side bend, coming back to these movements where one side of the body lengthens and the other side shortens, and you could even take an arm up if you wanted to. The other arm, you might want the other arm out to the side like this. It's quite nice. Good. Then, I don't know, we'll be here all day, won't we, trying to remember if we're balanced or not. So from here, we're going to come on into pinwheels. So let one knee come on top of the other knee and slide this leg back in a little bit of circle. So we're just doing some of these sitting things now, because in a moment we're going to sit and we're going to do a little bit of breathing, and we're going to come back to Hakini Mudra. A little bit of circling one way and then the other. And then we're going to be folding, doing our pinwheel forward bend, where we fold over this leg. So turning towards this knee that's going out to the side, folding the weight of our body down over the leg and having a few breaths in this position. Letting the breath come in, letting the breath leave you. That all looks very nice. Just trying to be heavy, giving the weight of your body to the floor through your leg. And then before we fall asleep here, we can start to walk our hands back in towards us. Lean over onto the side you just folded over. Bring the back leg on top of that leg. Open your legs out in cobbler pose. See how it feels for a moment to sit in cobbler pose. So either with your hands back on the floor behind you or holding your feet. See for a moment, how does it feel to be long and tall in cobbler pose? It's not the easiest place to be long and tall. And then over into side two of pinwheel. Slide, so fold the knees together, slide the leg back. Do a little bit of circling here. Circling one way, circling the other. And then in a moment, we'll be doing that same forward bend on this side. So we'll be turning, facing the knee that's going out to the side, folding the weight of our body over that leg, resting down, giving our weight to the floor. Having a few breaths here, so feeling the breath come in, feeling the breath leave you. And then walking your hands back in towards you, lean onto the hand on this side, bring the back knee on top of the front knee, open the legs out. Now I'm just swinging sideways because what I'd like you to do now is let the feet come a bit further forwards in cobbler pose. So we could briefly think about our cobbler pose forward bend. So this would be feeling our pelvis. Is there any possibility of the pelvis moving forwards in this position? If you have a cushion, or Otto, I'm just going to steal his cushion, you could bring that cushion to rest on top of your feet. If you have a pile of cushions, you could put a pile of cushions on top of your feet. Because it is quite nice in this one to be able to lean forwards onto something. You can always stay leaning back with your feet wide. That's absolutely fine. Now, if you're quite comfy here, you might want to stay here for a few more breaths. The other option, if you're not feeling so comfy, which we will all do in a moment, is to take your legs long and wide. So if you're feeling now that you need to let your legs lengthen out, then this is what we'll be doing. And then, again, yes, so you're either having a few breaths with your legs long and wide or in that cobbler pose position. And so remember, if you are in the wide forward bend, with your legs long, you're trying to, the same thing, feel that your pelvis is moving forwards. Yes, that's nice, yeah. And also if you're sitting wide, so if you're in cobbler pose still, you might just want to lengthen your legs out now. You don't really have to do too much of a wide forward bend, but you just might want to let your legs be long. And if you're in this one, you're trying to keep your toes orientated towards the ceiling. Good. You might just be here, letting the legs have a little lengthen out. So what I'd like you to think about now is how you're going to sit comfortably to do some breathing and sit with Hakini mudras. So it could well be with your back against the wall or your back against the sofa. I'm going to steal yet another cushion off poor Otto. So yeah, we're coming to comfortable sitting. We're not going to be sitting that long, but it is important when we come to sit and breathe that we're comfortable. Linda, you've got loads of lovely cushions there, don't you? So when you've found your sitting position, it could be, yeah, that's it, Nigel. I was about to say, really make sure you're right on your sit bones or your back is right. What are you sitting against? Is there a sofa? Can't quite see. You both, yeah, you both got a sofa behind you. So that looks very nice. Sheila, I've got a very good view of you there. The spine looks very nice and long. So wherever you're sitting, do a little bit of just rocking or circling or swaying. Just trying to feel that you can feel heavy through your pelvis and legs. So I probably say this every week, but in sitting, and it's not easy. So we think about those babies we were talking about at the beginning who sit so beautifully, and maybe it's the nappy that helps, but they're very, very sort of down on the floor, aren't they? They've got those sort of heavy legs and pelvis, and then they've got this beautiful long spine. So that's what we're aiming for in sitting, is heavy below the waist, and then our spine can be lovely and long. I'm going to mute you in a moment. I'll just talk you through what we're going to do first of all. So first of all, we're going to have a few breaths with our hands on our low ribs. Then we're going to bring our hands into Hakini Mudra, and we're going to move our hands with our breathing. So breathing out, breathing in, breathing out. So I always feel this is a sort of mirror between the ribs and between this hand position. So we're going to do those two things, and then we're going to come into Hakini Mudra just as a mudra, touching first a couple of fingers, then the middle finger, then the other fingers, and then all of them. So the focus is first the breathing, and then it becomes a bit more meditative just with the mudra. So I'm going to mute you now, and we're going to bring our hands to our low ribs. So with your hands on your low ribs, so it's quite good in this one to have the elbows coming out to the side rather than the elbows going back. And you've got your thumbs going round towards the back of your body, and the fingers coming round towards the front. And if you close your eyes here, see if you can feel these ribs moving as you breathe in and out. So it's very helpful if you let the breath slow down. So as the breath comes in, you feel the breath has time to travel all the way to the bottom of your lungs, and you feel these low ribs widen into your hands. And as you exhale, you let your breath leave you slow and long, and those low ribs narrow a little bit as the breath empties out. And then again, you let a breath come in and travel deep within you. You feel those ribs widen. And then once more, you let the breath leave you, and you feel those ribs narrow and hug around you. So let's just have maybe 3 more cycles of breath here, feeling the ribs widening and narrowing as the breath fills and empties us. And then just let your hands come to rest on your thighs for a moment, and let your shoulders drop. Just feel the weight of your pelvis and legs on the floor. Notice how your head is resting on the top of your spine. See if that can be as comfortable as possible. And then we're going to bring the hands in front of ourselves into Hakini Mudra, so touching the pads of the fingers and the thumbs. And to start with, we're going to use this to focus on our breathing. So as you exhale, you're going to bring the palms together. And as the breath comes in, as you breathe in, let the palms come away from each other. And see if you can mirror this movement of the ribs with your hands as the breath comes in and as the breath leaves you. You can have your eyes open or closed. Let's have 2 more cycles of breath here. So the hands, the palms moving apart as you breathe in, the palms moving together as you exhale. And then again, come to let your hands rest down on your thighs for a moment. Maybe come to a little bit of rocking or swaying, so you can really feel the weight of your pelvis on the ground. And then once more, bring the hands in front of your chest, and we're just going to start with, touch the little fingers and the ring fingers together. And then have a few breaths here. Let the shoulders drop, let the elbows feel heavy. Touch the little fingers and the ring fingers. Let the breath flow in, let the breath leave you. Your eyes can be open or closed. And then release those fingers and bring just the middle fingers to touch. So like we did in the standing balance, just your middle fingers are touching. Try to soften the arms as much as possible. Shoulders can feel heavy. Feel that contact of those 2 fingers. Let the breath come in, let the breath leave you. And then finally releasing the middle fingers, touching the index finger and the thumbs together for a couple of breaths. Again, soften the hands, soften the center of the palms. Make sure your fingers are softly bending. So they're creating this sort of arch. Let the breath come in, let the breath leave you. And then finally touch all the pads of the fingers together. So we're in Hakini Mudra once more. Make sure the centers of your palms are soft, your fingers are curving gently. And have a couple of breaths here, feeling the breath come in, feeling the breath leave you. And then let that go. Give your hands a little bit of a shake out. And it might be nice now to fold forwards, to bring your palms onto the floor in front of you. And you can even touch your forehead onto the ground. And then we're going to lie down. So make sure you put on warm things. The socks can go back on, Sheila. We're going to do a couple of little rocky, twisty things before we lie quietly. So if you settle down when you're ready onto your backs, just simple things. So settling onto your backs with your knees bent. letting yourself arrive on the floor, just feeling that lovely feeling of the body the floor, supporting the length of your spine. And once you're down on the floor, the very first thing you can do is to let your knees tilt to the right and to the left. Keep it comfortable, keep it easy. And then pause the knees in the center. Keep the legs still bent and bring the arms up into that prayer pose position we did right at the beginning of class. And come back to a little bit of rocking across your upper back. Rocking the arms to the right and to the left. Keeping it comfortable, keeping it easy. Letting the breath flow in and out. And from here, you're going to pause in the center and bring your arms down to give yourself a hug. And a few times, just keep on rocking across the upper back and leaving the legs behind. And then when you want to, you can add in the knees as well, and obviously the head. So everything is rocking to the right and to the left. So giving yourself this nice massage across the back of your body. If your fingers get in the way, then trail the fingers out to the side, away from your body. And then eventually you're going to let this all go and you're going to settle down in lying, comfortable lying, however you're most comfortable. So settling down, do pop a blanket over you if you're feeling a bit chilly. And yeah, taking your time to settle down. I'm going to read you a short poem from the Ryokan book, which we've had some from, and this is one I found at the end of last week, which I absolutely love. First of all, settling onto your back, and again, that lovely feeling of allowing the ground to support the whole length of your body. There's nothing to do but rest and let your breath move through you. So I'll read the poem now. The rain has stopped. The clouds have drifted away. And the weather is clear again. If your heart is pure, then all things in your world are pure. Abandon this fleeting world. Abandon yourself. Then the moon and flowers will guide you along the way. So in a moment, I'm going to ring the singing bowl. And just let yourself rest quietly until the end of the third sound. And then you can start to move the way you'd like to. So thank you very much, everyone. Just take your time. I'm going to stop the recording.